Most people think the F-150 is the ultimate Ford truck. It's America's best-selling vehicle for nearly 5 decades, and it deserves that crown. But when mechanics talk about Ford trucks that actually make it to 500,000 miles, the F-150 rarely comes up in that conversation. The trucks we trust to go the distance are different machines entirely, built with heavier frames, simpler powertrains, and engineering that prioritizes survival over creature comforts. I have been working on Fords for over 15 years, and today I am revealing the 3 Ford trucks that mechanics personally drive to 500,000 miles and beyond. Truck number 1 has 2 examples that have each exceeded 1.3 million miles with their original engines still running. And truck number 3 is going to surprise you because most people forgot it even existed as a serious contender. Let's get into it. Starting with the truck that mechanics argue about the least, the Ford F-250 Super Duty with the 7.3-liter Power Stroke diesel. If you want to understand why diesel mechanics hoard these trucks like gold bars, you need to understand what Ford and Navistar built between 1994 and 2003. The 7.3 Power Stroke is arguably the most reliable diesel engine ever put in a consumer pickup truck. It was designed before modern emissions regulations forced manufacturers to bolt on layers of complexity. There is no diesel particulate filter clogging up after 100,000 miles. There is no DEF system eating through sensors and pumps. There is no EGR cooler waiting to crack and dump coolant into your cylinders. The 7.3 is about as mechanically simple as a modern diesel gets, and that simplicity is exactly what makes it last forever. The engine uses a cast iron block and cast iron cylinder heads that do not crack under thermal stress the way aluminum components can. The rotating assembly is massively overbuilt for the power it actually produces. The 7.3 makes somewhere around 235 to 275 horsepower depending on the year, which sounds modest by today's standards, but that conservative power output is precisely why the internals survive for hundreds of thousands of miles. The engine is never working hard relative to its design limits. Low specific output, conservative boost levels, and a stout bottom end are the recipe for an engine that simply refuses to quit. The fuel injection system on the 7.3-liter F-250 Power Stroke uses a hydraulically actuated, electronically controlled unit injector setup called HEUI. It is simpler than the high-pressure common rail systems on newer diesels, and the injectors themselves last significantly longer before needing replacement. I have pulled injectors out of 7.3-liter engines with 300,000 miles that still tested within specification. Try that with a set of common rail injectors on a newer truck and you will be disappointed. What makes the F-250 with this engine a 500,000-mile truck is not just the motor. The Super Duty platform itself was engineered from the ground up as a work truck. The frame is significantly heavier and stronger than the F-150 platform. The axles, suspension components, and driveline parts are all specified for heavy commercial use. Everything from the wheel bearings to the U-joints is beefier than what you find under a half-ton truck. When you combine an essentially bulletproof diesel engine with a chassis designed to haul and tow every single day for decades, you get a truck that routinely crosses 400,000 miles and keeps going. The documented evidence backs this up completely. There are documented examples of the 7.3-liter Power Stroke F-250s exceeding 500,000 miles on their original engines, with nothing more than regular oil changes, fuel filter replacements, and basic maintenance. One owner in Holland bought a 1997 F-250 at auction in California and put over 1 million miles on it while hauling vehicles across Europe. The truck is still running on its original engine block. Diesel mechanics who specialize in Power Stroke engines say that an unmodified, well-maintained 7.3-liter Power Stroke is virtually guaranteed to reach 400,000 to 500,000 miles. The ones that do not make it that far are almost always trucks that were tuned aggressively, neglected their oil changes, or were driven with contaminated fuel for extended periods. If you're looking for one of these trucks today, expect to pay a premium. Clean, low-mileage 7.3 Power-Stroke F-250s regularly sell for $15,000 to $30,000 or more depending on condition, which is remarkable for trucks that are over 20 years old. That resale value tells you everything you need to know about how the market views the reliability of this platform. The maintenance is straightforward and inexpensive by diesel standards. Change the oil every 5,000 miles with quality synthetic oil, replace the fuel filters every 15,000 miles, flush the cooling system every 30,000 miles, and keep up with basic wear items. Do that consistently, and this truck will outlast your mortgage. If you're enjoying this breakdown, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. The next truck on this list has the highest probability of reaching 250,000 miles of any vehicle ever tested, and the data to prove it. The Ford F-350 Super Duty, particularly models equipped with the 6.7-liter Power-Stroke diesel. Now I know what you are thinking. You are saying the F-350 is basically the same truck as the F-250, just with heavier springs and bigger axles. And you are partially right. The F-350 shares its cab structure and basic architecture with the F-250. But the differences in how these trucks are built and used are what make the F-350 the single most durable vehicle you can buy from any manufacturer, and the data proves it. An extensive study by IC Cars analyzed millions of vehicles sold on the used market to determine which models were most likely to reach 250,000 miles. The Ford F-350 Super Duty came in at number 1 with a 49.1% probability of reaching 250,000 miles. That is nearly 5 times higher than the average vehicle, which sits at about 11.8%. The F-350 did not just beat other trucks, it beat every car, every SUV, every vehicle of any type in the study. And 250,000 miles is really just the halfway point for a properly maintained F-350 diesel. The 6.7-liter Power-Stroke that Ford has been building since 2011 is a completely different animal than the older engines. This is the first Power-Stroke engine that Ford designed and manufactured entirely in-house rather than outsourcing to Navistar. It features a compacted graphite iron block that is stronger and lighter than traditional cast iron, aluminum cylinder heads for better heat dissipation, and a reverse flow turbocharger layout that improves exhaust flow and reduces turbo lag. The current generation produces over 475 horsepower and 1,050 pound-feet of torque, which is absolutely staggering power from a factory pickup truck engine. But like the 7.3-liter before it, the 6.7 is built with enough internal strength that those output numbers do not stress the components anywhere near their limits. Real-world longevity stories with the 6.7 are already impressive, considering the engine has only been in production since 2011. A 2013 F-350 with the 6.7-liter diesel has been documented with over 1.3 million miles. The odometer literally maxed out at 999,999.9 miles, and the owner kept going, using paper logs to track additional mileage. That truck has been through multiple turbos and had its transmission replaced, which is expected at those mileage levels, but the engine block and rotating assembly are still original. Another 2000 model F-350 with the older 7.3-liter diesel also crossed the 1.3 million mile mark with its original engine and original transmission still intact. These are the highest mileage Fords ever documented, and they are both F-350 Super Duties. What gives the F-350 an edge over the F-250 in reaching extreme mileage comes down to the chassis components and how these trucks tend to be used. The F-350 has a higher gross vehicle weight rating, which means heavier duty axles, stronger leaf springs, larger brake components, and beefier wheel hubs. When you're running a truck hard every day, towing fifth-wheel trailers, hauling equipment, and covering hundreds of highway miles, those heavier components resist wear better over the long haul. The brake rotors last longer because they are larger and dissipate heat more effectively. The wheel bearings survive longer because they are rated for higher loads. The leaf springs maintain their shape better because they carry loads closer to their rated capacity, rather than being constantly overloaded like an F-250 might be. When owners push it beyond its limits. There is also a usage factor that contributes to F-350 longevity. These trucks are predominantly purchased by businesses and contractors who depend on them as revenue-generating tools. When your truck is directly responsible for your income, you maintain it religiously. Fleet operators change oil on schedule. They replace filters before they are due. They address small problems before they become catastrophic failures. This culture of proactive maintenance is one of the biggest reasons heavy-duty trucks consistently outlast their lighter counterparts in longevity studies. The truck itself is capable of extreme mileage, but the type of owner who buys an F-350 is also the type of owner who takes care of it properly. For the 6.7-liter Power Stroke specifically, the maintenance requirements for extreme longevity are more involved than the older 7.3, but still manageable. Oil changes every 5,000 to 7,000 miles using high-quality diesel-rated synthetic oil are critical. Fuel filter changes every 15,000 to 20,000 miles prevent contamination from reaching the high-pressure fuel pump and injectors, which are the most expensive components in the fuel system. Coolant flushes every 45,000 to 60,000 miles keep the cooling system operating efficiently and prevent the EGR cooler from clogging with scale and debris. The DEF system requires periodic attention, including replacing the DEF pump and cleaning the injector nozzle when they start to deteriorate. Transmission fluid services every 50,000 miles are critical for trucks that tow regularly because the 10-speed automatic generates significant heat under heavy load and the fluid breaks down faster than most owners realize. The cost of a new F-350 is substantial, often exceeding $60,000 for a well-equipped diesel model and pushing past $90,000 for upper trim levels. But when you divide that purchase price by the potential 500,000 plus miles of service, the cost per mile becomes remarkably competitive. Compare that to an F-150 owner who trades trucks every 150,000 miles, and the economics of the F-350 start to look very attractive for anyone who plans to keep their truck long-term. Now, here is the truck that is going to surprise most people on this list, and it is the one that mechanics who wrench on their own vehicles quietly adore. The Ford Ranger, specifically the classic Rangers produced from the late 1980s through 2011, before Ford discontinued the model in North America. These little trucks are the cockroaches of the Ford lineup. They simply will not die. The Ford Ranger was never designed to be a luxury vehicle or a technology showcase. It was built to be an affordable, utilitarian work truck that could handle light commercial duty, fleet service, and daily abuse from owners who needed basic transportation with a bed. That mission statement resulted in one of the most simple, most reliable truck platforms Ford ever produced. The powertrain options were proven, durable engines paired with transmissions that had been refined over decades. The chassis was basic but strong, and because there was not much to go wrong in the first place, these trucks just kept running. The engine that mechanics love most in the Ranger platform is the 4.0-liter SOHC V6. This engine traces its lineage back to the Cologne 5.6 family that Ford used across multiple platforms worldwide. It produces around 207 horsepower and 238 pound-feet of torque, which is adequate power for a mid-sized truck without putting excessive stress on internal components. The cast iron block and aluminum heads are durable and handle heat well. The timing chain system, while not without its quirks on certain model years, is generally reliable and far more durable than the timing belts used in some competing trucks. But the real sleeper engine in the Ranger lineup is the 2.3-liter four-cylinder with a 5-speed manual transmission. This combination is the one that courier companies, delivery services, and municipal fleets ran for decades. The little four-cylinder is virtually indestructible when maintained properly. There are documented examples of Rangers with the 2.3-liter engine exceeding 400,000 miles on original engines and transmissions. One courier service reported having several Rangers with the 2.3 that accumulated over 400,000 miles while being driven more than 300 miles daily by employees who, by the fleet manager's own admission, did not treat them gently. The trucks just kept running despite being driven hard every single day. Ranger forums are filled with owners reporting mileage in the 300,000 to 450,000 range on original powertrains. A few owners claim to have reached or approached 600,000 miles, though these extreme numbers are harder to independently verify. What is consistent across all the high-mileage Ranger stories is the same theme: basic maintenance and nothing more. Oil changes, filters, spark plugs, and occasionally a water pump or alternator. These trucks do not require expensive interventions to keep running. They do not have turbochargers to fail, diesel particulate filters to clog, or high-pressure fuel systems to contaminate. They are gasoline-powered trucks with simple, naturally aspirated engines that run on regular fuel and basic maintenance. The Ranger's lightweight construction actually works in its favor for longevity in ways that most people do not consider. Because the truck weighs significantly less than a full-size pickup, every component in the drivetrain operates further below its maximum stress threshold during normal use. The transmission gears do not wear as fast because they are moving less mass. The brakes last longer because there is less kinetic energy to absorb. The wheel bearings, ball joints, and tie rod ends survive longer because they are carrying less weight. Even the engine itself works less hard because it does not need to accelerate as much mass from a standstill or maintain highway speed against aerodynamic resistance from a massive frontal area. This reduced mechanical stress across every system compounds over hundreds of thousands of miles into dramatically extended service life. The other factor that makes the Ranger a 500,000-mile truck is parts cost and availability. When something does eventually wear out on a Ranger, replacement parts are cheap and abundant. A water pump costs $30. An alternator runs about $80 for a quality remanufactured unit. Brake pads and rotors for all four corners can be done for under $200 in parts. Even a complete clutch replacement on a manual transmission Ranger costs a fraction of what a clutch job costs on a full-size truck. This affordability means owners can actually afford to fix things as they wear out, rather than scrapping the truck because the repair exceeds the vehicle's value. Many trucks go to the junkyard not because the engine or transmission died, but because the owner could not justify spending $3,000 on a repair for a truck worth $4,000. With the Ranger, that math rarely forces your hand because the repairs are so affordable. RepairPal gives the Ford Ranger a reliability rating of 4 out of 5, placing it third in its segment for overall dependability. The average annual repair cost for a Ranger is around $615, which is remarkably low for any vehicle, let alone a truck. The frequency of unscheduled repairs averages only 0.2 times per year, meaning most Ranger owners go entire years without a single unexpected trip to the mechanic. That combination of low repair frequency and low repair cost creates a vehicle that owners can maintain indefinitely without financial strain. For anyone considering buying a used Ranger as a long-term beater or work truck, the sweet spot is from 2006 to 2011 with the 4.0-liter V6 and a 5-speed automatic or manual transmission. These later models resolved most of the electrical gremlins and transmission issues that plagued earlier Rangers, and they can be found with reasonable mileage for $5,000 to $10,000. Do not be scared of mileage on these trucks. A Ranger with 180,000 miles that has maintenance records is likely a better buy than a lower mileage truck with no documentation. The engine and transmission are barely broken in at that mileage if they have been properly serviced. These three trucks share a common thread that explains why they reach mileage numbers most vehicles never approach. They are built with mechanical simplicity and structural over-engineering as core design priorities. The F-250 and F-350 Super Duty models use massively overbuilt frames, axles, and powertrain components designed for commercial-grade abuse. The Ranger uses lightweight construction and simple proven mechanicals that operate well within their design limits during normal use. All three trucks reward basic maintenance with extraordinary longevity, and all three punish neglect more slowly and less catastrophically than more complex modern vehicles. The lesson here is not that the F-150 is a bad truck. It is an excellent truck. But the F-150 is designed to balance comfort, technology, fuel economy, and capability in a package that appeals to the broadest possible market. That means compromises. Lighter frames to save weight and improve fuel economy. More complex engines to meet emission standards. Electronic systems that add convenience, but also add failure points. The trucks on this list do not make those compromises, or at least they did not when the most reliable versions were built. They prioritize durability above everything else, and the mileage numbers reflect that focus. If you found this valuable, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment telling me which of these three trucks you would pick as your 500,000-mile daily driver. Share this video with anyone who thinks the only Ford truck worth owning is an F-150. They need to see this. I will see you in the next one.